Okay, and going live. Here we are. So just waiting for a few folks to show up here this afternoon. We had some stormy weather earlier today. I'm going to settle in here with a drink, get everything rocking. Hey, Mark showed up. Great. Good to see you this afternoon. Well, we had some stormy weather come through here. And my neighbor who has fiber optic, she's been down and out for the count for the entire morning. So one of the things that was going to be discussed today here is while you're here, oh, some other people have joined. Come on in. Welcome. Welcome to the show. So the reason is, why am I still on cable internet, even though fiber optic is available? Well, that's because the fiber optic in our area is a financial scam. Some these, I'm trying to think of the word. There's a particular type of investment that's not on private equity, came in and bought the CenturyLink. And they bought CenturyLink to get what's called the pole rights, which in a municipality is the right to use the poles in the right-of-way, the utility right-of-way. So this company came in and they bought the pole rights basically because nobody was using the copper and the DSL anymore from CenturyLink. So they strung up all this fiber everywhere in a super hurry. Then they want to connect people up as soon as they can because they need to start recouping money on their initial investment. Well, it turns out once you get hooked up, you're on your own. The support is in some foreign country where people can barely speak English. And when there are outages, they're not like for half a day. They're like for days on end. Because what happens there, we have a lot of the utility lines are not properly trimmed. So when you have a branch fall on a fiber optic cable line and it breaks, you have to have a skilled technician come in with a special truck to splice the lines back together because a fiber cable generally has 244 fibers in there. Okay, and when you break that line, you've got to sit under with a special tool, and you've got to basically use this special adhesive and glue those fiber optic lines back together. And then you have to test it and everything and then put it back up. So it can take you anywhere from 24 to 48 hours to repair a 244. So what they did is the major trunk lines that come into the internet facility, all right, they're underground, but when it leaves that facility to come to all the homes, they decided to put all those fiber optic cables above ground. So it's a huge problem when your internet goes out here. The cable is one giant coaxial cable and it's easy to repair. Okay, so that's the answer to that question. How about another question? I need to bring up something here on the computer. Welcome to everybody who just joined to the Linux Hour questions and answers. All your questions answered. Even if we can't get the answer right away, we'll be back to you next week with an answer. Okay. So what I'd like to do is open up everything here and look at some files. Okay. So again, join a live stream. New to Linux or just curious about how it works for audio, music, and video production, whether you're troubleshooting. New to Linux or just curious about how it works for audio, music, and video production. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this up on the screen here. The answer from last week's question. Okay. This is going to be a lot easier. Okay, so there was a question that was asked last week in the Pound Linux Mint chat channel about this error message that appears. Okay, you can safely ignore that message. What's happening is Pulse Audio is usually making a call to interrogate the volume on a Bluetooth headset, hence the failure. It may safely be ignored. Now, why it blew that little text note up at the size of the screen and made me look like diaper chunks in that small screen. Okay, we've been having hours long. Okay, so we'll see your fiber is by a different investment company. Okay, and each fiber network is being built out on the former CenturyLink system. Okay, has a different name. See, you were probably once part of West Virginia Bell system or somebody like that. And you don't have any cable there? Okay. Well, see, we have a Spectrum cable here, and I'm not ashamed or embarrassed to say I'm on Spectrum. Well, actually, my normal downtime for Spectrum is a few minutes per month. Okay. And I've had internet in a lot of places across the country, and I can tell you that my internet is very reliable. I'm happy with it. The only problem comes when I'm uploading a 5 gigabyte video. I think the last one was 8 to YouTube video. That takes a while because my upload speed. Well, let's take a look and see right now what the friends here are giving me at Spectrum. Okay, I'm going to do a speed test here. All right, let's go. I'll give you we'll take a look right here. All right. We'll see what's going on. See, the beauty of it is, as people have migrated off of Spectrum to move to this new fiber, my speed has actually gone up because I don't have to share it with as many people. Okay, we're getting an answer here real quick. All right. Okay, let me switch over. Yeah, Frontier. Oh, that's not quite going to work here with the way they've got that set up, but that's okay. That's all right. I'll take care of this problem right now. Okay. I'll go back. Because I'm using my browser, I can't, for the web interface here to do the live streaming, I can't show you my browser at the same time in another tab. I'd have to open up a different browser and do that, but we're not going to do that today. We're just going to, answer things one at a time. Okay. All right, so let's do this. Let's go ahead and show the window. There we go. Okay, so there's my speed. Yeah, that's what I get. That upload speed is a little anemic. but that's just the way it is. Okay. Well, right, but I know yours is a lot better, but before you had Frontier, okay, does landline and phone, okay. But before that, you had that thing called sudden link, where you would suddenly lose your link. Oh God! I'll tell you, I would be having a satellite dish. Okay, so let's talk about upgrading to Linux Mint. Some people have asked about how to do that, and the preferred way is to do it with the update manager first. Okay, if you already have Linux Mint installed. So let's take a look at that, what that's going to look like. Let's see here. Let's take a look at the update manager. Okay, and see right there where it says upgrade to. Okay, I want to cancel that. See where it says edit? It's not showing on the screen. I guess for some security reason. Well, you click edit and then go down where it says upgrade to Linux Mint 22.20. I'm not sure why that's not showing in real time. Well, you know, as we go along here in the show, we'll discover new things. That's right. It sure has. 22.2 has been released, and they made some changes to sticky where those are minor changes. Really, I think the biggest thing is Linux Mint 22.2 features a brand new X app called Fingwit. The application is dedicated to fingerprint authentication, and to me, that's if you have a laptop with that feature, I think that's one of the biggest changes. It's a minor upgrade. They're busy doing things. They made a few improvements to the software manager interface, and they're doing a lot of things to get it fully ready for to be 100% Wayland. Right, and you're waiting on Linux Mint Debian Edition 2, and that'll probably be out in 2 or 3 months. I expect the beta to be out in a couple months. I really do. This is September, October. I would expect to see Linux Mint Debian Edition 7 maybe in beta by the end of October. I know last time they had Linux Mint 6 ready a month and a half or less than that when 22 came out. Or that was before 22. I get my numbers confused. Well, folks, anybody else have some questions out there, just jump on in. The water is fine, and there's no judgments here. This is a judgment-free zone. Unlike some of the people in the, I'm not going to mention what chat rooms they're in, the people that ask questions that can easily be answered with a web browser search. So next week, the show is going to be live in the SoundStudio. Yes, going to move the camera into the SoundStudio. Okay, so what I was going to do was show everybody today how to back up a virtual machine. Yeah, Debian 13 just came out, but that caused a lot of excitement. But the thing is, Marks, is I'm on a certain kernel level that supports all of my hardware, no issues, no regressions, no problems, okay, for these new workstations I bought last year, okay, because when I bought these workstations last year, I was running Linux Mints on 22.2204 Ubuntu base, and I had to add this hardware add-in. It was in the it was in the Ubuntu repositories, but I had to add that on these workstations. And then when the 24.04 came out, I have perfect hardware support. And then, of course, there were some changes made in some major pieces of music software that I use. And I said, well, you know, I really don't want to take a peek ahead. It's a look called a look ahead. I don't want to look ahead at how these packages are going to be in Debian 13. I want to keep using them just exactly the way they are now, called a feature freeze. I just want everything to run the way it is for the next year. And then as we get closer to Linux Mint 23, then I'll start to, I'll do a look ahead and prepare myself for the changes in the software. Yeah. So that's why I'm on Linux Mint 22.0 instead of 22.1. I just want to freeze everything and stay exactly where I'm at and just do the updates. And that's the beauty of Linux, is freedom of choice. Freedom of choice. So there's no Microsoft shop in Linux. Almost every distribution has a software manager of some kind, and it's mostly through a GUI, okay, where you can remove and add. They're called software packages in Linux, where you can add and remove these different applications, and there are software packages. So applications are in packages, and they're in a repository, not a store. And the repositories are usually maintained by the big Linux providers. That's Ubuntu. Linux Mint sits on top of Ubuntu, but for all the major pieces of software, it's going to use the repository from Ubuntu. Matter of fact, a lot of Linux distributions use the software repositories from Ubuntu. Okay. Well, I don't know if we're going to do command line basics here yet. What we need to do is build a base here on the channel where the same people show up every week who are interested in learning. And then we can start to do things like that. And I have thought about a whiteboard in the background here behind me with a pad, a sketch pad, and I can just draw here and it shows up on the whiteboard. So I've thought about that in the future. How this channel goes, the direction this channel goes, is all dependent on who shows up every week, who's going to support it. And if there's enough support for people who want to, we'll set up something here. We'll set up a screen in the background where we can show these things and do sketches and drawings and things like that, like a physics class. Okay. Another advantage of Linux, for those who are curious, is there are no forced updates when you turn on the computer or shut down your computer. Okay. Well, Marks, if I'm going to bring beer on this is a safe for work program. If I'm going to bring beer in here, I might as well bring the gummies too. Okay. So just going to keep it safe for work for the time being. Okay. Okay. Can you imagine a YouTube live where somebody's popping gummies, but actually gummies kick in an hour before? So taking them during the show wouldn't do any good. Oh boy. Hey, welcome. Welcome there, Annie. Great to have you with us today. Do you know much about the YouTube live here, or should I tell you about it? Oh, and I'm sorry, J.W. Smith out there. My apologies. I didn't see you. I had a file that was sitting on top of the chat window. My apologies. J.W. Smith, I'll be with you in just a minute. Okay, I do not just. Okay. All right. Well, Annie, thank you for joining. If you have any questions about computers, filmmaking, video editing, sound production, I can answer your questions there. Okay, so the question came up here. Which USB video acquisition dongle do you recommend for Linux? And actually, I was considering having to buy one, okay, for my little Sony HD video camera, okay, because I would have to take the HDMI out into a USB dongle interface to be able to stream on YouTube like I'm doing with this webcam, okay? So the answer to that question is you always want to look for this word, okay, class compliant device, okay, USB. In this case here, it's for MIDI. Let me bring up this little screen here because actually I was going to talk about MIDI, but this applies for any USB device for Linux, okay? And to make my face look like a diaper chunks here. All right, let's go through here. So MIDI interfaces, but this applies for HDMI USB. You're going to look for the word class compliant USB, just forget MIDI device, okay? And if you see that, it's going to work under Linux. Also look to see that it works under the Mac. If it works under the Mac and it says it's class compliant like this, a USB device, and you're running a more recent kernel, like a Linux, that's like 2 years old, a distro that's 2 years old or recent, it should work. Hello, Hawkeye 48. Welcome to the YouTube Live. You're new to Linux. Well, the answer to that is Linux Mint. We talk about Linux Mint here a lot. I'm using Linux Mint. Let's do this. Let me close this. But another thing you can do there, J.S. Smith, is you can look at a device, right, USB video class compliant, look for that. Linux should support it if it's a class compliant. The other thing is you can always do a search online. You can look at the item. Generally, these are about $12 United States dollars. What you're talking about, this little dongle, okay, that's about as big as my thumb here. All right, they're about $12 to $14. So what you do is find the one that you want to buy, then open up another browser tab and do a search for the device, the model number, and then the word Linux problems. Okay. And if that doesn't work with Linux, you're going to get all of these people who complain about that device. I couldn't get it to work in Linux no matter what I did. Okay. All right. So I hope I've answered your question there. And feel free to ask any others. So Hawkeye 48, you said you're new to Linux. What distro should you use? Okay, downloaded Mint is the way you could center the dock like in Pop! OS. Oh my goodness, you had to ask a question about Pop! OS. Well, I've got a story about that. In the other room is a duplicate workstation. Okay, and the only purpose of that workstation in the other room is for testing Linux. Okay, well, I did a command line update. I did what's called a distro upgrade command in System 76, all right, on their Cosmic. And I left the room because generally those are going to take about 5 minutes. I went into the kitchen to make some hot cocoa, all right. I come back and into this sound studio. I hear this tremendous whirring going on the computer like I've never heard it that loud before. I immediately shut it off, turned it back on, and had nuked the controller on my solid state drive. Now this is for Cosmic, okay. Is there a way I could center the dock? You know, there probably is a way to do that. If you look in the Linux Mint forums, I can't show you that here. Let me try to look at my entire desktop. Let's see here. Entire screen. This is, whoops, that didn't work. Okay, I don't think your chats are getting filtered there, Annie. Okay, thank you there, Philip, for that answer. Yeah, that's great that people are sharing knowledge. That's wonderful. Because see, I'm not into doing a lot. What I do is I have my Cinnamon desktop configured in a workstation configuration. So people are asking, well, what's a workstation configuration? It's one that takes up very little room on the screen, like for the taskbar, the start menu, everything. Okay, I wanted to show the desktop here, but the doggone thing went crazy. Darn it. Let me try a screen print instead. Okay. Let me minimize. Oops, we don't want to do that. Let's do this instead. Okay, now we got it. Okay, now we're going to maximize. Yeah, so this is what my desktop looks like, and you can see here along the bottom how slender everything is. Is this thing working? Yeah, there we go. So you can see along the bottom here how slender and how little room that takes up, and to give maximum space to the desktop, because a lot of times I'm editing video and also audio in several different programs, and I need as much desktop space as possible. Yeah, so that's the story there about my desktop. And I have a special program that I wrote. It's a batch file that backs up this entire configuration. So when I reinstall Linux Mint, I don't have to sit there in the control panel and redo everything and type in the numbers, you know, that this is 24 pixels high and the start menu has that icon and all of that business. Right. Okay. All right, so now we're back to normal. So Annie, the question to your answer, the answer to your question is Linux Mint is by far, because that has a Windows-like interface But more than that, Linux Mint is so user friendly. Like you can update the software through the software manager. You can do everything with a mouse point and click. You don't have to open a terminal and type in commands and run scripts and do all of that. It's a very user friendly. And if you want to learn more about Linux Mint, but you just put Arch on there. Oh, Arch, wow, Arch is painful. The problem with, yeah, okay. Yeah, wow is right. But you know, that is the thing. It's judgment free here now. And the beauty of Linux is choice. You can choose desktops. You can choose your Linux architecture, whether you're going to load Arch or Debian. There are so many choices. You can choose your, some people build their own. It's called building Linux from scratch. They choose their desktop integrator. They choose what repositories they're going to use. It's really something. Okay, that was great. Well, the problem with Linux Mint on a laptop, especially if it's a 1080p laptop, which is the one that I had, is everything is so small, and Linux Mint still doesn't support what's called scaling. So what I did is I bought a pair of strong reading glasses to use that laptop when I was traveling, because I had bought a nice laptop to travel with. And when I was on the road in coffee shops, I'd whip out those folding, they fold down in a little box. I'd whip out those folding reading glasses. Okay. Okay, so Hawkeye 48 has a question. If I boot Linux from an external hard drive enclosure, would it be slower than normal? Well, actually, I want to ask you a question there, Hawkeye. Have you ever tried to boot Linux Mint from a external hard drive other than a USB, to do a live session? The real answer to the question is you have done that. You say you know what the implications are for Grub, the boot manager. Yeah. It's going to be, it depends on the bus, whether it's USB 2 or 3. If it's USB 2, it's going to be a bit slower. USB 3 is pretty fast. But personally, I don't understand why you'd want to do that, because almost all modern, even laptops now, have a provision for a second internal drive. As a matter of fact, that's what I do in the testing room. I actually have, well, I had 3 until System 76 burnt the controller. I would go into the BIOS and just boot from one hard drive to another. Well, actually, they're SSDs. Oh, you need to hop computers often. Well, also, if you have a BIOS that is extremely EFI friendly, it will detect that there is a EFI segment there, and the the hard drive partitioning, and you can actually boot off it without the use of grub. Okay. Well, you're going to see some speed decrease. I've never tried that. You know, that's an interesting experiment. That's right. A lot of the newer computers have a BIOS that you don't even need grub anymore, as long as it can on one of these. Let me disconnect it here off my system. Okay, I always want to wait. Yeah, one of these here was USB 3, and these are really fast and durable. And I don't know why all that dust is showing up on there. I'll tell you, these cameras, they can catch the smallest imperfection. There we go. It's just been sitting on this desk for a while. And these are very fast, and you can plug them in. And if I actually installed Linux to this drive, which is possible now, and then I just plugged it in a computer that had the correct, had a more modern BIOS, I could actually boot off of it without having to use grub. On the older computers, you're going to need grub to tell it where everything is. That's to give it directions. Yeah. Oh, I love Gigabyte. If I was building my own computers, that's the motherboard I'd be using. I used to use them all the time when I built computers. Yeah. Well, Annie, actually, you said you were using Linux Mint for a while, but then you put Arch, and then follow-up question to DE question. Should I just start by trying out KDE Plasma? So I take it you want to use your reason for wanting to use KDE Plasma is that you want to be on the Arch architecture. Am I reading that correctly? For example, if you want to choose Fedora and you want to go with their Plasma desktop, is that what you had in mind? I'm trying to follow up with Annie's question. I need to turn off this chat room notification here just a minute. Yeah, because I've got one chat room where it's supposed to tell me every. Okay, so to follow up Annie's question, so I take it for whatever reason on your laptop you want to be on Arch. Is that correct? Well, then you can I would go with Debian. If you want to go with Arch, I would go with Fedora Plasma. Is that what you're asking? Well, one of the things is you can't tell here in this chat when somebody's left. Okay, yeah. Right. And some people like Arch because Arch has a more recent kernel and supports more recent hardware. But actually, Debian, and then from Debian comes Ubuntu. Ubuntu's been doing a real good job of catching up on hardware. Okay, well, if you want to do the Plasma on Arch, I would go with Fedora Plasma. That would be my choice on that. Great. Any other questions out there? I see we have 7 people lurking, and it's great to have you with us here this afternoon. So Annie, what do you use your computers for? Do you do sound recording, or you just like to browse the net? Okay, Hawkeye, do I program in real life? Not anymore. I used to do database programming, and I had my own computer business for about a decade. And this was back in the 80s and 90s when, see, back then, QuickBooks couldn't do all the things it does now. QuickBooks is very inflexible. There was Microsoft money in QuickBooks. Okay. So all these businesses needed custom software for billing, for electronic data interface and things like that. And like this one company, I built this delivery dispatching software. Well, they also needed a LAN to run it on. So I would build the entire network, the server, the LAN, the workstations, and the software. Yeah. But I did a lot of hardcore programming in the 80s and the early 90s, and then I gave it up because it was easier to make money building websites. And I did that, and then I shut down the business after the .com bust. And then a few years later, I went to work for HP. I do bash scripting, to answer your question, BASH, born again shell scripting. And I can show you some of my scripts. They're private. They're on GitHub, just like everybody else's, but I keep those private. But I can show you sometime if you send me I have my Instagram account linked on YouTube, so you can send me a message there. Or I don't know if you're in the internet chat rooms, or if you're on Internet Relay Chat, if you're on Discord. I'm everywhere. I'm on Discord, Internet Relay Chat. I'm also in the, what are these chat rooms? I'm in the Linux community chat, in Matrix. I'm not on Reddit though, but that might be the only place where I'm not on Reddit. What programming language you recommend for a beginner? What kind of programming do you want to do? Do you want to do scripts? Do you want to write a disk management plugin? What exactly do you want to program? Because that's the important question, because there are so many different tools out there for programming. So the real thing is, what do you want to do? What do you want to write? So the answer to your question is, do I program in real life? No, I don't have the time. I do bash scripting in Linux. Yeah. And the other thing is, it wouldn't make sense for me economically to program at my age, because people are not hiring people my age to do programming. So it's like, well, first, it's very tedious. So there's no financial incentive for me to program. I'm better off buying a Powerball ticket. See, that's what I'm doing in my retirement. I'm making movies, and I'm making soundtracks, and I have a little sound studio I built here in the room next to me. Okay. Just personal projects like apps and games. Oh, you know, if you want to write some apps, you could use Python. A lot of people are into Python. It's like the snake, Python, Python. Okay. A lot of people are doing stuff, and you can go into GitHub and look at people's Python projects. But if you want to write games, boy, I hope you have a head start in programming because that's a whole nother thing there. But you know what you can do? You can go into GitHub and do a search and see what kind of games people have written. And they have the source code out there, and you can take a look and see what's involved in writing those games. In other words, you can look ahead and see how much work is involved, and then decide if you want to do that. I'll tell you, look at some of that source code on a game and then see how dizzy it makes you. And then, yeah. You know, I like it that we can keep it casual and friendly here. And thank you very much for the thumbs up, folks. You know, I highly recommend GitHub as a source. It's highly recommend spending time in GitHub. And what I can do there, Hawkeye, is I can send you my private links and you can look at some of the scripts I've written that are several thousand lines long. Those are just scripts. Yeah. Actually, a lot of what Linux Mint does is done in Python. Like the update manager, it does a lot of work behind the scenes in Python. Yes, thank you. I saw that, and I promise I'll take care of it as soon as this is over. Okay, and I got a message here from Internet Relay Chat. Okay, you're all right there. Yeah. I could do that. I could zip it up. A text file is like 95% compressible. So there's a lot of empty space in a text file, and that's all a batch file is. It's just a text file that has a hashtag in it. They call it the what is that thing at the start of this? It's pound shebang, a shebang in it. So that's all it is. Well, Hawkeye, you're certainly welcome, and thank you very much for dropping by. And please come by again, or just hang out here with us. We're trying to build this this program here, a weekly program. It's going to be every week here, because we don't want to compete with college football on Saturday, and we don't want to compete with the NFL on Sunday. And so it turns out that Thursday is a great time, and that works out for me because generally Sunday I'm in my sound studio anyway, working on a radio program. And for those that don't know, and I'm not trying to promote this, but I just want to let people know some of the things I use Linux for, and you can watch this program over the internet, WCSK Big Band Hour. Yeah. So I'm usually working on that on Sunday, getting that program together. And then because my voice is, I do the voiceovers on Monday morning. Great. Well, I see we've got some lurkers out there. Come on in, ask a question, and thank you very much for the thumbs up. It's much appreciated. Okay, well, since there are no questions, let's continue on with some of the topics for today, because last week was all over the place. Okay, so we reviewed as to why I'm staying on the cable network instead of moving to fiber. And the answer to that was because the fiber in this area is a financial scam. Okay, their intention was never to operate this on the long term. They're going to sell it to somebody as part of a 5-year plan. Sorry about that. I've got an itch in the nose there. Okay, so we talked about another advantage of Linux is no forced hardware obsolescence. Like when you're moving from 10 to 11. In Windows, you've always got to run this little application to check and see if your hardware is going to run on the next version of Windows. There is no such thing in Linux. Okay, the time for starting is Thursdays at 2:30 PM Eastern time. So Eastern time is going to mean EDT or EST, Eastern time, 2:30. And when does it close? When we get tired. I say an hour, but last week was an hour and a half, and we didn't have near the traffic we're having this week. So it's 2:30 p.m. So you made it just at the start. Well, right. Yeah, IRC. And you can catch me on Internet Relay Chat. You can catch me on my chat nick on Internet Relay Chat. Let me give you that. And it's also in Discord. I'm in the Linux Mint room, a channel, and I'm on the Linux Mint server in Discord. And that's my nick that I use everywhere. Whoops, I misspelled it. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not very good at a keyboard. I keep misspelling it. Let's try it again. Acheron. And people ask me, Acheron, you're talking about the river in Greek mythology? No, that's from Aliens. Acheron was another name for that moon. Okay. All right, so you can catch me there in, I'm on, let's see, Debian Off Topic. I'm in hashtag Linux Mint on another IRC network. A question, am I a movie fan? Well, okay, Beansy. Well, Mark knows about beans, red beans and rice, man. Poof, pow, pow. All right. I can answer your question there, Hawkeye, just a second. Let's see here. I'm not going to turn the camera around and show my home theater, but I will show you a picture of it. Yeah, it was. I'm trying to find it here. Yeah, there's so many pictures. Okay, here it is. It's 5159. Okay, I'm going to share this in the screen here. Okay, I'm going to share this image. All right. Okay, there we go. Yeah. Okay. Yes, I have a home theater, and there are 8 speakers in this room. There are 8, and there's 300 watts of subwoofer power, you know, the subs, and there's 500 watts on the other 5 speakers. It's insane. Because when I built this home theater system, I was in a larger home, and I had a huge living room. And now I'm in this smaller home, and the amount of power is insane. The beauty of having a home theater system, I can put Phil Collins on, and I can go back in the bedroom and work out, and I can hear the floor vibrate. No, it's all pretty energy efficient. It's all, you know, the latest stuff, you know, the latest equipment. But yeah, I can go work out. And that's one thing I like about exercising at home is I can listen to my own music and everything. And I can never hear Phil Collins on earbuds at I joined this gym recently, Planet Fitness, and I got that black card and everything, the Planet Fitness black card, but I can't listen to Phil Collins there like I can't hear at home. Elton John is another great workout music as well. Yeah. And how about David Bowie? Yeah, that's cool. It's workout music. Oh, come on in, friends and neighbors. Come join us. Ask a question, or we can just talk about anything you want to. Okay, it doesn't have to be anything specific. Oh, thank you there, Nathan. Well, come on in and join us for a few minutes. Okay. Uh-huh. It's funny. The very one channel that I don't have muted is the one that made the reminder, but that's okay. It's all good. It's all good. Okay, well, while waiting for some other folks to join us and ask some questions, what jobs do you recommend in science and technology? Boy, that's a tough question. Because I'll tell you what, Hawkeye, you bring up such a very interesting question because things are changing by the month in IT, computing, science. Let me give you an example of how I was in radio and electronics before I was in computing. Let me just say this. Do you know that AI right now is being used to design radio antennas that are no bigger than your the nail here on your pinky that sits in a cell phone? Every modern cell phone has an antenna back here. Okay. AI is designing antennas that used to take engineers months and months to perfect. Okay, because they're called multi-band antennas. They have to work on more than one band. AI is designing antennas that nobody's ever seen before. Designs that nobody's ever seen. AI, once it gets better, okay, AI, people don't understand AI is just in its baby steps. AI is going to be able to do legal, like research. Right now, legal companies have all these legal clerks. Man, in the future, AI, you're just going to type in a sentence. You're looking for a case history about discrimination in a certain person, a certain time period. Legal firms won't need all these legal clerks anymore. These big companies, supply management, AI will be able to see. I used to work in supply management at Hewlett Packard. AI is going to be able to do what's called a bill of materials. AI can put together a bomb in seconds that might take somebody a day to do. So for years, okay, I'll tell you what AI can do. My father was a chemical engineer, and it took months and years to design some of these chemical plants to do what's called non-ideal chemical reactions. One day, AI can sit down and design a chemical plant. The thing in chemical engineering is called yield. You've got your inputs and your outputs, and you're looking to get a certain yield on your outputs. Well, one day AI will be able to design a complete chemical plant. Okay. It can't do that now. All right. So to answer your question, in all due honesty, because I've seen the workplace change so much, okay, we've gone from paper to computers, and I've just seen the workplace change so much. And see, for years, for the last decade, they've been telling students, STEM, You know, it's capitalized, okay? They've been telling students to get into STEM, get into STEM. Well, now all these students in the pipeline, okay? Yes, it is live for all these students that were in the STEM pipeline in the last decade who are now graduating from college. Remember, they got into STEM when they were junior high, well, it was called middle school, high school, and then they went to college for a 4-year degree. Now all these students that are graduating can't find work. Uh-oh. Ouch. Yeah, that is a sad thing to see. Because see, that's the way it's always been in the engineering fields. You either have too many people looking for work or there's a shortage of engineers. You know, whether you're looking for mechanical, chemical, biological. And see, that's how AI is going to revolutionize engineering of all kinds. You need a bridge. AI will be able to design it. You won't need a room full of mechanical engineers. Yeah. I'll tell you what, I'd get into aircraft maintenance. That's one thing because that's kind of cool. It's kind of a hands-on, high-tech job. The pay is very well. You can choose where you work because guess what? Almost every major city has a hub like Atlanta, Dallas, New York. All of these major airlines have what's called a maintenance facility, which is Denver, which is generally near their hub airport. Okay, they pull the airplanes out of their hub and they do the maintenance and then they put them back in. Okay, aircraft maintenance. Yeah, how about that? And if you like hands-on stuff and you like, you know, technical stuff, aircraft maintenance would be an excellent profession. Well, see, that's the thing in India. Airline travel is going to only grow as the Indian economy continues to grow. More people are going to be able to afford to fly. And there's a shortage of airline maintenance workers. There's definitely a shortage. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions? It's great that we've got questions rolling here today, and I'd love to see some other folks come on in. We've got 7 in the wings there. Let me go back here. It'd be great to have Nathan just drop in real quick just to ask a question or say hello. But there are too many engineers here. Well, see, that's because the United States is outsourcing a lot of work to India, and then India is a growing economy. But there are so many more. There we go, Nathan. Hey, I know you see, that's how I ran into you last week, Nathan, on your stream, is I was just finishing up mine and saving it. And for some reason, the algorithm on the YouTube algorithm showed me your stream. So I dropped in on yours, and that's how I discovered you. It's great to have you with us here today. And I know you're busy, but thank you so much for just dropping in. And just to let you know how I do it here, I've got a Logitech 920 professional webcam. I think I got it for $60 on I'm trying to think. There's so many places to buy trinkets. I said, well, I'll buy it, and if I don't like it, I'll return it. And so it has these stereo microphones, and so I don't have to have a mic or a lapel mic. I get great audio just where I'm at. Okay, fantastic. Yeah. And I'm going straight in. I'm not using OBS Studio. And And next week, the live stream is going to be from the sound studio in the other room. Well, hello, howdy, neighbor. So your internet is back up. And tell us how that went. And then we had another storm come through here this afternoon when I was going to redeem my Powerball ticket. Boy, that was a gully washer. Well, while we're waiting, see Hawkeye, that's the problem with engineers. You had 2 hours ago all as well. Well, it's good to hear that. Is there's a shortage of engineers or there's too many. Yeah, and that's a sad situation because engineering is hard work. It requires a lot of study. And see, the reason I never became an engineer, and here's a bit of honesty, I had trouble with calculus. My brain is not wired for mathematics, much less what's called abstract mathematics. And so there was no way I was going to become an engineer with my grades in calculus. Yeah. But you know what? These airlines are so desperate for maintenance mechanics. They have schools now where you can learn it in like 2 years and you can be on the job. I would highly suggest that. And then the thing is, some countries are so short on airline mechanics that you could probably get a visa to work in another country very easily. That's something else to think about too if you're interested in working overseas. You've got to have a skill that's up there at the top where there's a big shortage of work of skilled people. Yeah. You know, I knew I was in trouble when I was in 3rd grade and I had trouble with the multiplication tables. I knew I was not a mathematically inclined person. And it could be because of that severe head injury that I had in 2nd grade that might have, because I also have a problem with the coordination in my fingers. Yeah. So who knows? It's a beautiful world out there, people. It sure is. Let's get some more questions in here. We've got 6 people in the wings, and thank you very much for the thumbs up. And Nathan, I look forward to visiting on your live later today. I'll pop in. And your scripting is beautiful. Your level of scripting is really fantastic. I wish I could script like that, but right now I have too many other irons in the fire. Yeah. And next week will be a live from the sound studio, and there's no drinks allowed in there either, so you won't see this. Can you imagine spilling a drink into one of those $3,000 synthesizers? I wouldn't want to do that. That's why there are no drinks allowed in there. I wouldn't want that. Yeah, it would be, because especially if you went to order a replacement and you found out they're not made anymore. That could be. Although everything in there is relatively new except that one rack unit. Well, everybody, just to let you know, if you're into some advanced stuff, like I guess Nathan does a lot of scripting for storage, and I think he had a script last week to set up a network attached storage, and I think he had another script he was working on. He's a very pleasant person to interact with on YouTube Live. I highly recommend, if you're looking for something advanced, to drop in. or you just want to drop in and see what Nathan is up to. Yeah, let's see. I have a lot of thoughts going on right now. Let me go over here to Nathan. What's your YouTube channel name again? Yeah, you can go ahead and type it in there for everybody. Yeah, you can go ahead and put it in there. And it'll be here in the chat too, on the chat replay as well, because this time I checked the box to save the chat replay. That is great. Thank you. And the thing is that Nathan is just a pleasant person to watch and learn from. You know, if you're at that level in Linux. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, Nathan, thanks again. I don't want to hold you from your live. We've got 5 people out there. Anybody else who'd like to drop in for a question today, come on in. The water is fine. Okay, while we're waiting for some questions to pop up, let's continue down the list of topics here. Okay, so we discussed just a few minutes ago that there were no forced hardware obsolescence in Linux. And then we don't have any music people here yet, but I was going to discuss MIDI interfaces. Okay, that's been MIDI interfaces, M-I-D-I, that's capital M-I-D-I. So I'm just going to go ahead and post this in the chat here. There we go. So to talk about MIDI interfaces real quick, that's something I have quite a bit of experience with, but actually I don't use MIDI right now with my sound production. Everything is by hand, and it goes into a mixer and then into a sound interface. A USB sound interface is connected to a very tiny Linux workstation. And but if you're trying to do the MIDI interface where you're going to compose everything in the computer, and then you're going to play different instruments or going to play different parts of your track, one of the best pieces of software to use that unfortunately doesn't run on Linux that I've used with a Windows laptop is Ableton Live. But unfortunately, Ableton Live only runs on the Apple and Windows platform, and I wish they would release a Linux version because I would have it on day one. Okay, so you want to do some composition work in your DAW, which is a digital audio workstation, and then you want to have your instruments play from the DAW. You're going to need what's called a MIDI interface, or you can do MIDI over USB, which is a relatively new feature. So some of your older synthesizers and drum machines won't support that. Okay. The story about MIDI interfaces is almost all of them will now work for Linux. It used to be, oh, I can't find one that works for Linux. I can't. I looked and looked. So most will work. All you have to do is look for this in your, there it is. If it's a class compliant USB MIDI device, it's going to work in Linux. That's the answer to that question there. Okay. Just as we discussed earlier, the video device. And the real problem in Linux with MIDI is the routing. And if anybody's curious, I can show some screenshots of how to do that. But I don't think we have anybody here today yet who needs to know that. I can give you a sample. you're going to do the routing in the software that you're running the DAW in. Every DAW has a interface to interact with the Linux MIDI routing, which is a real pain. Yeah. So I don't want to confuse everybody by showing that screen yet until we need to. We're going to keep it fun and casual. Any other questions here? Don't be shy. Just keep it safe for work. Well, we've got 5 people there on the channel. But you know, some could be just watching and they don't have a YouTube account. Some people watch on FreeTube. Okay. Other people watch on some other Linux-based software where you're not going to have a way to interact here. So I'll check in the Linux chat room here. Right. There's a lot of people who have trying to think of the right word to describe that, philosophical differences with YouTube. Okay. Just now I had another. I love it how people follow up a question with a question. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I should do this. I pasted the wrong one. Let me do this again. Yeah. Yeah, that's the one. That's the correct link. I was laughing at this keyboard last week when I was watching the replay. Oh, absolutely. There's a growing discontent about the control of Google and YouTube. And so I was laughing when I was watching the replay and I heard the sound of this keyboard. It just made me laugh. It sounded like I was in a steno pool or something, because this is a mechanical keyboard. It's a HyperX. And because of my poor keyboard skills, this is backlit. And the backlighting is beautiful. And not only is it backlit, can I type in the dark, but it has 4 levels of brightness. And then you can also change the color of the brightness. I mean, the color of the backlight. And it's just an absolutely beautiful keyboard. And it comes with 3 different types of switches that you can buy. I'm not doing an ad for HyperX. And I've got the 10 key list because I do quite a bit of coding. So I'm not doing a advertising for HyperX. It's just what worked for me. And it works under Linux as well, seamless. Yeah, HyperX is a beautiful 10 keyless. It's very heavy. And then you can choose between the 3 different kind of switches. And I've got the aquas. And it's so funny to hear those on the replay. It sounds like I'm going mad with some chiclets here. Okay. Yeah. Well, how about that, Sheila? Yeah, you can hear how really slow I type. like a elementary school kid. Oh, there's no way I'm ever going to use this. I'm going to type on this little smartphone keyboard. There is no way. I'm going to have to use some, I'll have to be talking to that phone all the time. No, I cannot. Well, we've got 5 folks, and thank you for the thumbs up. We've been live here for an hour and 20 minutes. I had trouble bringing up the stream today. I said, man, I barely made it. It was 2:27. So I don't want to end the stream with 6 folks here in the channel. Let's come on in with a question or a comment. The water's fine. It's friendly here. It's judgmental free zone. Doesn't matter what your skill level is with Linux or computers in general. Yeah, come on in. And also, if you have a tricky question that we can't answer right here live on live, the question will be answered the following week, generally at the top of the show. Okay, we had a question last week about this failure message on Bluetooth. Even if you turn the Bluetooth service off, that's because there's a component in Pulse Audio that's usually making a call to interrogate the volume on a Bluetooth headset. So yeah. And I think that's in binary. I don't think that's something you can fix on your own. I think that's a binary file that makes that call. Okay, we've got 7 people here in the channel, and thank you for the thumbs up. That's much appreciated. And this will be at the same time every week now, Thursday afternoons at 2:30 Eastern Time. That means 2:30 EDT and EST. Have I tried Temple OS? No, but I've certainly heard of it. And I've certainly heard of it. Let's see here. And, you know, it's great that everybody who's been here has had good manners, that we don't need to ban people or mute people and do all that business. That's great. Just remember, folks, keep it safe for work, because some people are at work at this hour. So the live will be every week. As a matter of fact, I've created a graphic now that shows the time. It doesn't show the date, but it shows Thursday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And that means Eastern Time means regardless of whether the time changes in the fall, it goes back to Eastern Standard Time. That doesn't matter. It's Eastern Time. It's 2:30, summer in the winter. We're going to be here at 2:30. Actually, there was a lot of discussion about that last week, but it was decided that Sunday was out for me. Saturday is college football. And then this was a good time. And then in Europe, on the weekends, there's football as well. So this was a good workout, a good time that worked out. You know, I've heard of Temple OS, but to be honest, I've never seen a screen of Temple, or I've never used it. Okay, we had some people leave. We've got 4 folks here in the chat. Been here for about an hour and 24 minutes. I'm not in any hurry to leave, but what I don't want this to do is I don't want this to get into something where I'm going to show everybody the cat, the bedroom furniture, and spend 3 hours on here just babbling. We want to make this a constructive conversation. Okay, you mean my username here in YouTube? Kilo Papa Tango Alpha Mike Charlie? Are you talking about Acheron on IRC chat? And also, actually, I'm on IRC chat, and then I'm also here in Discord. Okay, YouTube. Well, Kilo Papa Tango Alpha Mike Charlie is Kilo Papa Tango is short for Kingsport, and that's also one of my radio call sign, KPT. Alpha Mike Charlie AMC is for Ambient Movie Collective, because my idea when I started the YouTube channel last summer, okay, was that I was going to collaborate with other artists here in the Kingsport area. But that hasn't happened. It used to be ambient music. But what I do is not really music, it's soundtracks. Okay. And now that the movie making has started, okay, thank you for that message there, Nathan. Nathan's a really cool name too, a nice friendly name. So it morphed from ambient music collective to ambient movie collective because the focus now is on movie making, and it includes ambient soundtracks. It includes ambient sound, nature sounds in those. So if you'd like to subscribe, tomorrow is coming out a beautiful 9.5-minute film that I made of a beautiful creek. It's really beautiful. And the place that I chose to do the filming at it's probably been like that since the Native Americans were here. It's been completely undisturbed by 200 years of development. Thank you for that subscription. Every subscription counts. Every voice matters here at KPT AMC. So that's the beauty of the video that's coming out tomorrow morning at midnight, is that was filmed. That it's probably looked like that for a very long time. And it features complete ambient nature sounds. Okay, any other questions? So yeah, the focus was changed from music to soundtracks, and then to doing movies and soundtracks together, the whole package. Yes, and it's all done under Linux. Every single bit of it is recorded, edited, and trying to think of the word. After you do all the editing, then you're going to actually create the file itself, the MP4 file that's uploaded. All of that's done in Linux. But to bring up a point there are some tracks here on the site where I do some poetry reading, and then in the background is some ambient sound track that I composed, and then it changes after I'm done. All of that's edited here. Yeah, those are very interesting, by the way, how that happens. Great. Any other questions here? We've still got some folks out there. It's free to ask. There's no charge here to come on in and ask a question. Oh, everybody always has a problem with screen tearing on Linux, man. Yeah, that's common. That's because Cinnamon is a pretty heavy desktop. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Nathan, and I look forward to watching yours as soon as this one Probably going to wrap this one up here in a few more minutes. Thank you kindly very much. Yeah, I met Nathan last. Just to let you all know, he's up, he's up in Canada. I'm not going to say where. I'm not going to dox anybody. I've been accused of doxing people before. So I'm just going to say he's up in Canada, and I started watching his live. And then I started also watching some of his other previous videos that were very interesting. And then I saw that he had a synthesizer parked in the room there, and I wondered, what is the deal with that? A fellow musician. I said, that is cool. Yeah. And it was very nice. And that's kind of what we're hoping for with this YouTube channel, is to build a collective of artists from all over the world to talk about sound production in Linux, video production in Linux. But, we can talk about anything in Linux. It's all up to what you all want to do. The people who come here every week are going to drive the future of this YouTube Live. Okay, and goodbye, Hawkeye. I missed your bye message there. Unfortunately, my vision isn't what it used to be. I had 20/20 vision for years. I think it was going to work for HP and looking at those tiny serial numbers that did it. Strained my eyes, man. I did a lot of different things at Hewlett Packard. Some of them I can't even talk about. So how about it there, Marks? Have you got any other questions, or anybody else? Okay, we only have 2 people here in the live. So what I'd like to do is to go ahead and close it out at 1:31. Yeah, you're good. Okay, I'm good too. Are you okay with me shutting it down? Do the final sign off. Okay, let's go ahead and close it. Okay, I see a couple more people came in, just getting ready to shut this live down. But if some people have some questions, I never want to shut this live down before somebody has a question. I want to make sure everybody's had an opportunity to ask a question or make a comment. So come on in, because we're getting ready to close her down. Getting ready to shut the barn door. Okay, well, I see there's a third person out there. So if you have a question, speak now, or we'll catch you next week. Here every week at the same time. Remember Batman, same bat time, same bat channel. Remember that, Marks? Man, you mentioned that today. People wouldn't know what you're talking about, right? It's going to be tough next week. Yeah, it's going to be tough next week because there's no drinks allowed in the music studio. All right. Okay, well, we're signing off from here in beautiful Kingsport, Tennessee. And thank you, everyone, for joining, and those who are going to watch this on the replay. It was a pleasure. And goodbye, everybody. If I can find out how to stop it. And the button is right there. It's a wonderful world.